Welcome to episode 672 of Good Luck High Five. This is a podcast for you if you like Magic the Gathering. Whether you were all in on the Magic World Championship or you're just at home playing some kitchen table Magic with your buddies, we are here for you. I'm one of your hosts, Maria.
And I'm another host, Tyler.
Megan is still in Seattle this week after World
Perhaps
Championship.
sleeping in Seattle, like right now. It's possible. Like we
One
don't
can
know.
only imagine that she will at some point be sleeping in Seattle.
Fingers crossed on that for sure. But maybe right now, hopefully at some point.
I mean, how long can a human being go without sleep?
Not
very long.
Yeah.
Hold on, Google.
And really a very short amount of time before things start to get really unfortunate.
Like seeing things on fire and whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, the record was set in 1964. About 11 days. I don't know what the
I don't
about
like
is.
that it's called a record. Like, I don't like using the word record in the context of staying awake for a certain amount of time because
wow,
I want records to be positive.
Yeah, this is an anti-record, if you will.
Yeah,
it's kind of like famous and infamous. This is
exactly. An infrarecord.
Infrarecord.
Yeah, it doesn't. When I say it, it sounds like something else, but that's what I intend.
Indeed. Well, I am back from the World Championship. Everyone, World Championship 31 was this past weekend. I had a front row seat to all of the action and indeed all of the drama that ensued.
As well there was. Yes.
And there was plenty of it, friends.
There really was,
plenty of it. And we're going to get into all of that, going over all of the highlights, key takeaways, and stuff that you can use to move forward in your Magic life if you're interested in standard or draft for Avatar: The Last Airbender.
I like that phrase, move forward in your Magic life. It sounds like you've been in a state of crisis, but now maybe with this world's information, you can kind of start to get your life back together, your Magic life back together.
You know what? I spelled so much hot nonsense from the news desk. I'm still kind of in that mode. You're just stringing words together. Do they mean anything? Sometimes definitely not. You're just saying words to say words. There's no teleprompter. There's no script.
Yeah.
You're kind of flying by the seat of your pants out there.
You really are, yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes those pants take you to great heights. Sometimes they take you to, the pits of eternity,
I can't wait for that set to drop in 2028.
Yeah, Edge of Eternity's sequel is going to be called The Pits of Eternity.
We showed you the edge. Now it's time for the pits. 2028. You know what? It's a Magic theme set. Magic IP. I'm in.
Yeah. Agreed.
But also, there's a lot of talk about potential cheating, angle shooting, etc. at the World Championship. And we were going to touch on that because, like I said, I was there. Yeah. No big deal. Internet.
And we even have a special broadcast from Rob.
From Rob's car.
From Rob's car, who's not here right now, but who was willing to record something to weigh in on this for us.
Yes, we had to ask Judge Rob. He is our judge after all.
He is our judge after all.
And he's a great one at that.
Absolutely.
And so we'll hear from him and his opinions on the whole situation coming up later in the show. I want to say, Tyler, welcome back because you weren't here last week because you were being kept without food in a cage.
Yes. Yeah. It's when I listening to the episode last week, I was happy.
We did give him access to an MP3 player.
Yes. I was happy. Yeah. Yep. An MP3 player.
We had to load the podcast. It did not have internet connectivity when we gave it to him because we were worried that he would use that to escape.
Yeah, which I probably would have. So that was smart.
But because we did have one patron join at $2 a month, Tyler has been let out.
I was allowed back out of the cage. Yep. Freshly,
onto the couch.
Only like about 15 minutes ago.
Well, I wouldn't say fresh, quite honestly. You've been in that cage for a long time.
Yeah, I'm not fresh, but I'm freshly out.
Correct.
Yeah.
Speaking of patrons, hey patrons, thank you so much for being patrons and supporting us on patreon.com/GLHF Magic. Maybe I'll give Tyler a donut if we get a $5 patron before next week.
Oh my gosh.
Another threat.
Actually that is. I don't know when the last time I ate a donut was. It's been a long time.
I know, now that I said that, it's not exactly a Tyler food.
It's not a treat for me, unfortunately, but if it was for the...
I'll give you a carrot.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
Now we're talking.
Patreon.com/GLHF Magic will get you early episode releases. We release Commander Arcades early to you. Good Luck High Fives come out a day early, which can matter a lot when a new set releases on the horizon. You get access to our Discord server to come hang out, fight, do whatever you want.
Gosh, yeah. I mean,
I would argue for less fighting,
less on the fighting end of things. Yeah, but there was a fun discussion in our Discord about the number of packs that I have remaining, and some people weighing in. And I will have to say, I was struck by one of the people who in the Discord posted the number of packs they had, and it was 243. And I was like, oh, interesting. I never counted mine. I was like, let me go and count mine. And it took me a minute because as I've showed you in that video that I sent you.
There's a lot.
Well, and it just it swirls around. Like you try to pace through it.
The UI is not 100.
It's not up to it, really. But I did count them all, and it was 2,043.
What the heck?
So I really feel like that was a sign that both me and this other user were on the right track towards some kind of enlightenment. You know what I mean? Like, I think that a lot of people were saying, oh, you should just open the packs. But now I think I should never open the packs. I think that's what the universe is telling me.
There's something here, Tyler. We thought the answer to everything in life was 42, but it turns out it's actually it's just some combination of 243.
It has to have 2, 4, and 3 in it, and then some number of zeros.
2,043. That's a lot of packs, though. I gotta say, impressive.
Yeah, thank you. Well, yeah, thank you. It's as I said in the Discord. It started out from a place of realizing that if you really wanted to maximize the value of the weekly MTG midweek Magic rare rewards, you wouldn't open any packs from standard, because that would make it less. More likely that when you open one of those random rares that it was just going to be gems, because if you already had 4 of rares of that random rare that it's going to give you, you're just getting gems. Now, that was the admittedly flimsy justification I gave for it at the beginning. From at some point, just like a general compulsion took over, and that's really where I'm sitting in this moment.
I have to say, though, having someone like you as part of the team who would know that, first of all, to even kickstart the compulsion, I think is filling in a gap that Megan and I certainly would not travel down that road.
Yeah, which and to your credit, probably, but I'm happy to. But I'm happy to.
Between the three of us, we will make a complete human at some point.
A fully
realized
dysfunctional human. Yeah, like I'm saying, because I think we're just talking about dysfunctions now. So I'm bringing this dysfunction, and you each have your own dysfunctions that you're bringing to the table.
I think if we put all our dysfunctions together, we make the perfect being.
Okay. Oh, yes. I don't know. Yes. All right. I'm not sure.
My logic checks out.
Yes, your logic checks out. And and this isn't one of your dysfunctions, I think, like what we're experiencing right now. You know what I mean? Like
Patreon.com/GLHF Magic. Let's talk about the World Championship, friends.
Yes.
World Championship 31 took place over this past weekend in Bellevue, Washington, not even Seattle.
Yeah, but pretty close.
But pretty close.
Yeah.
Bellevue, I learned, is like the bougie suburb of Seattle. I won't call it a suburb. It is a full-on city. That's where Microsoft is.
Right. I did.
The home of Microsoft.
I did know that.
So Bill Gates lives down the road. We were going driving down the road.
Did you go and egg his house or anything like that?
We TP'd it.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
All right, classic.
And you'll drive right past a Gucci, an Hermes store, Prada. They're all just there, like a normal mall stores.
Sure.
This place, I'm telling you.
A little higher end type thing.
If you wanted to get a drink at the hotel, a G&T cost you $25. And that's with rail, by the way.
Yowza.
Oh, boy.
That's
anyway,
rough.
So we were in Bellevue. We had 127 people playing in this tournament, so this is about half the size of a pro tour. And in the past, we've had world championships where only 16 or 20 people.
They were that way for a long time. And then, what was it, 3 years ago? It was for a few years,
that
they've expanded it?
And then they expanded again, I want to say 2 years ago. So we're back to a larger worlds field, which is very exciting.
Yeah.
And leads for a metagame that's more in line with reality as opposed to kind of warping itself to a small player field.
Yeah.
And it was exciting because we had a new standard format. We had just had the ban of VV in standard.
Yep.
And we had just had the release of all of these cards from Avatar: The Last Airbender, new standard decks we were expecting to see. And in fact, Tyler, We did.
There were. Yeah. I mean, it's one in particular. Yeah.
So let's talk about the metagame that came out of the World Championship in Standard. The number one deck that was brought this weekend was Is It Lessons? And this was indeed the new deck that Tyler is referring to.
The new hotness.
18% of the field brought this. And something kind of interesting about this deck is that there were a number of individuals and people on testing teams and one testing team which had discovered this deck independently of each other.
Yeah.
Which is kind of fun.
It's like the theory of evolution, Darwin had that, but then there was another dude whose name I can't remember because no one can remember his name, who also was coming up with evolution at the same time.
I was thinking about this the other day.
Yeah.
Were we talking about it?
I don't think so.
Okay, well, I was definitely talking to somebody about it, and they were saying, this is a common phenomenon in history. I want to say it was Newton discovering gravity. Somebody else was discovering it at the exact same time.
Yeah.
And people just make these discoveries concurrently, probably because the collective knowledge of the world is such that it opens itself and allows for people to make the discovery, perhaps.
And because we are all one being, one consciousness. Mind. Yeah. So that's
and we're all just little offshoots of each other.
Yep, little sprouts, yeah.
I love to be a little sprout.
Yeah, well, you are. So, yeah, mission
accomplished. Put me in your sandwich.
Yeah, well, okay, I'm not. Wait, are you talking to the collective unconscious? Is a big mouth that could eat the sprouts, or what's the person eating the sandwich in this situation?
God.
Okay, yeah, great. All right, great.
Anyway, this Is It Lessons deck. A team that brought it was Team TCG Player. This is formerly Team Channel Fireball with a lot of Hall of Famers on it and Pro Tour winners and all that kind of thing. And the deck, oh boy, it's powerful.
Yeah, definitely. Does some, for a standard deck especially, I think you look at it and you're like, this doesn't even feel like you're playing standard anymore.
No, it feels like some kind of vintage format.
Yeah, it feels
for sure.
Yeah.
It's built around the cards, some of the new lessons cards from Avatar, which kind of enabled the deck to happen. I talked with Matt Nass, who is also a Pro Tour champion, famous for making these decks that are kind of fiddly and do a bunch of little tiny things. And
Game actions,
thank you. And he had discovered the shell of this deck a few shows ago and was like, ooh, I think there could be something here.
Yeah.
And then he saw these lessons cards get printed Accumulate Wisdom, and he was like, ding, I think we have it. So this deck is built around the card Monument to Endurance, which is from Ether Drift. It's an artifact that says, when you discard a card, choose one that hasn't been chosen this turn. Draw a card, create a treasure token. Each opponent loses 3 life.
And I'll say the other card that I think is very important to mention is Artist Talent, which was
thank you.
So Artist Talent and Monument to Endurance, I think, was the true thing that unlocked this deck because those two cards together are just like an engine. Because when you play Artist Talent, it's 1 in a red for an enchantment class. It's from Bloomburrow. And it's got a little ferret on it. It's cute. He's painting some things.
He's an artist.
And whenever you cast a non-creature spell, level 1 is whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you may discard a card. If you do, draw a card. Level 2, which is 2 in a red to unlock, is non-creature spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. 2 in a red for level 3 is if a source you control would deal non-combat damage to an opponent or a permanent an opponent controls, it deals that much damage plus 2 instead. So all 3 of these work well with Monument to Endurance because the first one obviously gives you discards for any spell you play.
Yes.
Non-creature spell. So and there's so many non-creature spells in the deck because there's so many lessons. And so that just makes it so sometimes you're drawing just crazy amounts of cards off of that. Accumulate Wisdom obviously was, many people were calling it Ancestral Recall.
Some are calling it Grandcestral
Recall, yep, which is very cute. I like it.
I like it too.
Because either with, if Grand's active or if the second level of Artist Talent is active and there's enough lessons in the graveyard, you actually are playing 1 blue for drawing 3 cards.
So
it actually
literally is Ancestral Recall.
Yeah.
And turns out if that's in your format, I guess you should probably play it.
Yeah, I think that's one of the lessons we learned for sure. Get it? And
very nice.
And I'll also so this Artist Talent too. Just say the last thing about it is the level 3 also works with Monument Endurance because once you get to the place, most of the time the deck was winning by burning people out with a Monument to Endurance or multiple of them and discarding a few cards. And if you get to the point where you have Artist Talent on level 3 and 1 Monument of Endurance, you're dealing 5 damage per discarded card. Once per turn you can deal 5 damage. And if you have 2, you can do it you can deal 10 damage per turn.
That's called half your life total.
Yes, exactly. And as you said, Boomerang Basics, you could pick up the Monument to Endurance and play it again in a turn if you were, like, I want to deal 10 damage and I only have one. If you have a Boomerang Basics, you can pick it up, draw another card, and also play it again and get that, once you play it again, it resets.
More like Boomerang Basics.
Exactly. Yeah, truly. Yeah. I see what you did there.
This deck is very consistent and very powerful.
Yes.
And like I said, a number of people were able to identify it before the tournament. Some not quite in this fashion, but the deck real strong.
Yes.
And the consensus, I believe, is that they believe Team TCG player, quote, broke the format by finding this deck, meaning it was so much better than every other deck that nobody really had a chance against them when Standard came around. Yeah. And I do think that people were also, the general public was starting to kind of hone in on this in Standard, because I was playing a lot of Standard heading up to this tournament, and I did play against somebody who played this against me on Arena.
Sure. Yeah.
And I was like talking to some of the players before the tournament, and I was like, hey, sweet deck. Like, I played against it the other day on Arena, and I saw their face kind of like blanch. They're like, what? And I'm like, you're not the only people who have identified this or whatever.
Nice to knock them down a peg or two.
Well, yeah, they deserve it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But there was another deck in the top 8, which was played by Derek Davis, which was very similar, but did not have the Monument to Endurance package, artist talent package in it, and was weaker because of it.
Yes, very much so, especially in the mirror, which was.
Yes.
Yeah, there were some decks where it probably actually was better, but like against the Ouroboros creature-based decks, I think it had one of the big things that it had was more interaction, so it had more of the that'll quench you, and more Eddie Merc Crabs was kind of like the win condition in the deck.
5/5 Crab.
Yep, playing 2 copies of that. It's a 5/5 Crab with Flash, and it has this spell costs 1 less to cast for each instant sorcery in your graveyard. It's usually 5 blue, but obviously a lot of the time he was casting it for just blue. And then it also enters tapped if it's not your turn, and when it enters, you tap up to 2 target creatures. So it's a card that against creature-based decks would give you at least some things that could interact a little bit more fully if you had run out of your removal spells. So I think there were some decks where it maybe was better positioned to bet against, but because Is It Lessons was so good, there were many Is It Lessons in the top 8, and even in getting into the top 8, Derek lost a bunch of win-ins, and part of the reason was he kept running up against that Is It Lessons deck with the Monument to Endurance artist talent package, and his deck was very poorly positioned against that deck.
Yeah, we definitely don't see teams quote unquote breaking it every tournament.
No, definitely not.
It's been a while since maybe
happened. Since TCG player did it with the vampires,
Rakdos Vampires.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's very exciting when it happens because they kind of identified something secret that they can use to exploit the tournament and kind of turn it in their favor.
Yeah.
So I always kind of like when it happens because it's exciting, but also then afterwards you're like, now we have to deal with the fallout of
true. Yeah. And
everyone playing this.
It's fun for the first day and a half, and then at some point you get to the point where you're like, okay, I wish there were a few more things. And this deck in particular, it's very complicated, and it's not
the most fun to play against either.
Not the most fun to play against, and to preview the drama portion of it, I think it was not completely unrelated to the fact that
it's difficult to play.
It was difficult to play, and I think some sloppiness came from the fact that this deck was one that when a number of people were piloting, and it wasn't the whole thing was not that old. It wasn't like they'd had months to practice with this deck. It was a deck that definitely needed very expert pilots to get the full. Who have played it for a long time, know it in and out. That's just not the situation we're in after you identify a deck a week before a big tournament. Yeah. Looking more at the overall metagame, I'll mention Teamer Otters was the second most played deck with 16% of the field. Mm-hmm. This one, I think people were expecting a lot more people to play. Yep. Badger Mole Cub going off was not the case. Yeah. In third, we had Banned Airbending, which is the deck Megan was talking about playing on the show last week. Mm-hmm. Javier Dominguez, the reigning world champ, brought this deck, and it performed very poorly. It did. He was kind of the only one that almost made it into the top 8. Because it's Javier. Yeah, he just could, pilot a trash bag. A trash bag, yeah. He trash could. Bag.deck and might get close to the top 8. Yeah. Your boy, Jean-Emmanuel Duprat, brought the 4th most popular deck, which was Is It Looting? Yep. Which is another flavor of Is It, but in this case, it's more aggressive and focused on attacking the opponent. Yep.
There was a Jeskai control list that 10 people were playing. Is It Prowess was up next. Simic or Boroid, followed by Sultai Reanimator with 6 people piloting that, many from the Japanese team Moriyama Japan, which this is a deck I talked about on the show last week.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know, I think this deck is good. And let me tell you, if more people played it,
they might have had a better shot. It was pretty well positioned. Obviously, this was the first time we were kind of seeing this matchup, and especially at a high level. So, the consensus was from everyone there that deck was not one that the Is It Lessons players wanted to play against.
Yes, because as you who listened to the episode last week know, it plays main deck Artifact Hate.
Yeah, that's right.
So that's pretty handy in this situation.
Yeah, and these Is It Lessons ones didn't have a lot of ways to interact on the stack, and so I think that was also classically, if you've got a Reanimator deck, you really are ideally wanting to counter the things before they actually come into play, and that was the case here. So, both of those things made it so was a deck that did pretty well, because the other deck that was busted was not super well positioned against it.
So the decks that ended up kind of having the correct call on the weekend were the Is It Lessons deck, which had a good win rate. The the Sultai Reanimator deck was the only deck who had the better win rate in the field than that, with 61% win rate. So I think moving forward, that one would be a good one to check out if you're interested in playing some standee on the ladder. Although I think that a lot of people are going to be brewing up decks to beat Is It Lessons
for sure. Yeah.
Right now. Yeah. So that deck probably has a rather large target on its back.
I think it definitely does. And, it may be able to withstand it given some of the ridiculous things that we saw it do.
Ancestral Recall.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's just it, like you said, the thing about it being so consistent is the part that I think really appealed to these pro players, and made it into a deck that did so well, because you just see a lot of your deck when you're drawing, and whether it's looting or drawing, you are getting through so much of your deck, and that just increases the consistency in a way that most other decks didn't have access to.
So the top 8 consisted of 3 copies in various forms of Is It Lessons. And it also had Is It Looting, piloted by Jean-Emmanuel Duprat. It had one copy of Temur Otters that Arne Huschenbett brought. And then Ken Yukihiro was playing a Sultai Reanimator. And Sean Henry of Australia was running Temur Otters. So the top 8, did have the most copies of Is It. Not a white card to be seen.
That's true. I think that was the thing that really felt bad for people, is that the sort of
dominance of Is It
of different types was a big chunk of it. And then even if you weren't playing Is It strictly, you were playing blue, there were green was there mostly because of the Cub.
Yeah.
But there just wasn't a lot.
Say we kill the Cub, you know what I'm saying? Oof.
Yeah, the Cub in a vacuum is the most busted card. I'm saying it is true, and I don't want to
think about that Cub in a vacuum.
I don't want to put the Cub into the vacuum of space, but yeah. That having been said, the Lessons deck works because of the great synergy, and the Ancestral Recall / Accumulated Wisdom only works if you build your deck around it. The Cub, you put that in any green deck, and it is...
Yeah, it doesn't matter, really.
It's very good. So, so I think it just felt like there was a lot of the same colors, that were...
And, I mean, we've been here before. What did we just ban from Standard?
Yeah.
Blue and red cards.
Blue and red,
And... I've heard some people say, hey, imagine what Standard would be like if all of these were still
true.
legal.
Yeah, it's true.
And you're like, yeah, that's disgusting.
It is kind of disgusting, yeah.
And so now we're like, oh, here we are back again with the dominance of blue and red.
Yeah.
What do we do moving forward? I expect some bans to happen from this deck, but I guess we'll have to see how the format kind of shifts.
Yeah.
To incorporate it.
Yeah.
But, I can't lie. Blue and red is the place to be right now.
It's very true.
And has been for a while.
Yeah, it's very true.
So designers, I'm looking at you. Where are the white mages on the design team? You know what I'm saying?
They must all be in the limited design portion, because white has actually been very strong and limited a lot of the time in the last couple of years. So
speaking of limited, you got some of the draft of this fine feathered event that we had.
Yep. I did, yep.
And it turned out that what I saw was that if you're in white, you're doing all right.
Yeah, I do think white and blue for sure. But coming in, everyone agreed that those were probably the 2 colors you wanted to skew towards, and it does just seem like a white. I think JD on in an interview at some point during the weekend was like, yeah, I feel like my experience of drafting this format has been I lose with excellent blue decks, and then I win with subpar white decks is kind of what he said. And that's probably, you know, a little bit hyperbolic, but I think that there is some truth to the fact that the white cards just seem to play well. I can't remember which player it was, but someone had like what looked like a pretty mediocre blue-white deck, and it did really well relative. Like I think it was Derek Davis.
I believe it was Derek Davis. Yeah.
Because like I can't remember who he was playing in his pod finals, but I was like, oh, this other deck looks way better to me. But and of course, obviously he drew pretty. Derek was off to like a flaming hot start, and that was true in the draft as well. But like that deck that he played looked kind of subpar.
He said even before that finals match, I think my deck is bad.
Yeah.
And I'm going to lose.
Yeah.
And he didn't.
He did not. No, he
and
really didn't.
Is the case for our 1-6-0 drafter.
Yep.
There's only one in the entire field. Both drafts included white. There's a Celestia deck and an Orzhov deck that they took down their pods with 2 times. So I would say Avatar draft, white is the place to be if it's even medium open at your table.
And did anyone say that on this show at any point? Like, I can't remember what got said about white, like in that, you know, an original draft episode when there was like,
Are you trying to toot your own horn over here?
I just remember someone said, looking at the comments.
Who could it have been?
I just remember someone looking at the comments and be like, this, like, lessons
Maybe
in draft.
I said it. I probably said it.
It might have been. I can't remember for sure, but it was one of the 3 people that was there that day, and you were one of those people. So it might have been.
You have 33.333 repeating chance.
Yeah, repeating, of course. Yeah.
So, not too many lessons learned with draft, but we now know, I think, even more solidly that white is the place to be if you're drafting.
And I'll say, though, quickly, this format, a quick just like touch in with it. I have found it. I still love it. I was in a cage last week, so I didn't get as much chance to draft
without the internet.
Yeah, without the internet. Oh, yeah. So, you know,
you're drafting offline.
Yeah, I'm saying I didn't get a chance to draft last week. That's what I was trying to say.
Okay, yeah.
But if I had, I would say that like the format has continued to evolve. I feel like there are fun ways to get into most of the decks. I do think white is still like a very good place to be, but I think one of the cool things is that the white decks that I've seen and have played a little bit with have tended to skew a little more towards the mid-range, where I would have said that it was pretty aggressive at the beginning of the format, and I really like that. I honestly think Shrines is a place that has like a validity to it that I would never have guessed would be the case going into.
If you can get it.
If you can get it, but there's also, I think specifically if you're in white and or red, like that little package of like the white shrine and the red shrine is something that you can kind of spec on if you're in a like aggressive white and red deck. And there is a way in which if your deck is interested in lessons, that Aang's Journey is a card that's better than it looked as well, because that lesson synergy is just worth a lot more in the format than it kind of initially looked like. And so
let me tell you, it's worth a lot more. Accumulate Wisdom is like $5.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, truly. No, yeah, I mean,
somebody said that to me the other day. I was like, yeah, right.
And then you're like, oh, no, actually
it is.
Anyway, long story short, it does seem like a draft format that there are bombs in it, but I have felt like it has been very, very deep in the, you know, in
I've had a great time playing it. I think sealed leaves something to be desired because of the bomb-heavy nature of the format. But a draft, I think, is still really fun.
Yeah, agreed.
Although we're going to be able to play Final Fantasy through the end of the year.
I know, kind of crazy.
Which I'm very excited about on Arena.
So it'll be like a head-to-head fight between what I would say are the two best draft formats of this year.
I would agree.
Yeah.
So we've got a nice little Crimby Prez from Wizards of the Coast on Arena to close out the year. Getting back into the tournament, the end of the tournament, the top 8. We mentioned what decks made the top 8.
Yep.
The finals came down to an Is It Lessons mirror.
Yep.
One was piloted by Seth Manfield, who was part of that TCG player team that quote unquote broke the format.
Yep.
And one was piloted by Akira Shibata, who had brought his own version of Is It Lessons, and he did find the Artist Talent Monument package on his own.
Yep.
He just tested with some friends. The way he got to the World Championship was by doing well at a regional championship.
Which is very cool.
Japan, North Korea region, which is really neat. So he's sitting down across from Seth Manfield, who was already a world champion back in 2015. And he's like, I did well at an RC, and here I am, which truly. I think is very cool.
It's very cool, yeah.
Seth Manfield cold clocked him, though.
He really did.
3 games to 0. Go ahead.
It was a real letdown of a finals because especially the last two games, I believe
more excited.
Shibata drew infinity lands in the second game. I mean, it was insane.
It was like
it was statistically.
I would love to see that. We got to ask Frank about those stats.
Truly, because it was almost like everyone.
Surely he can't draw another land.
Yes, and then he did.
And then he did.
Yeah, and so that game, and then he mulled the 5 in the last game.
It was
so
tough.
it was just that's you hate to see that, especially at the end of
you do
a tournament that is the prize jewel of the whole season. Like, you hate to see that last game come down to something that we've all been there. It feels bad, and there's nothing you can really do about it. And it's part of what makes the game beautiful. You can't throw it out. It is a part of the game.
No, I agree. But I see people whenever this happens in chat. They're like, "See, this is the problem with Magic. This freaking mana system. You get flooded. You get screwed, or whatever." Yeah. And I'm like, "No, this is why Magic is good. Actually, the fact that it's happening in the finals of a Pro Tour sucks, right? Does. We cannot doubt that.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Without this, Magic is not the game.
Agreed.
It just isn't.
Yeah.
And it's not, in fact, I would argue it's nowhere near the game that it is.
I think that mana system and the pitfalls of it are what makes the game great. I think that's true. It's just really unfortunate that when you're on the, when everything is focused down on this pinhead of one match, that it becomes an issue. Both mana and mulliganing, those are the two things that feel worst. When you're oh, I just didn't draw a functional hand, and then I didn't draw it again. And they've obviously the mulligan system now is way better than it used to be. It used to be extremely punishing. I'm saying
it used to be you could only mulligan if you drew all lands.
Yes, and also and then even after that, I'm saying even in the more recent times, it was you mulligan and you only get to draw 6 more cards. You didn't get that extra choice, which makes a huge difference for getting a functional hand. So it's a great change. But even still with that, there are just times when it happens where you're oh yeah, I didn't.
And we have to sometimes take the medicine with the pudding. You know what I mean?
That's right. Yep.
You know that famous saying?
Yep, I do. Sometimes your pudding has medicine in it. Yep, that's right.
That's how I trick myself into taking my medicine every day. I'm yum, yum. Well, here's how I do it. Okay, I get a pudding cup. Chocolate pudding.
Okay, great.
That night, I take my pills, crush them up, swirl them up.
Is this real? I can't tell. I would love it if...
Is this real?
I don't know. I'm honest. It's an honest question. It's an honest question now.
What does Tyler think of me?
Well, I don't know.
I'm learning a lot in this moment. I'll tell you that.
No, I knew you were joking. But I
crush them up, and then I knock myself out so that I forget that I did that the night before, and then I wake up and I'm delicious pudding. I'll eat it.
And the knocking out, does that happen with another drugged pudding? Is there is it a two-phase?
Yeah, it's a two.
And I want then you to there's this whole system in which you have to forget that the drugged pudding, the secondary drugged pudding is drugged as well. So there's a third drugged pudding.
Yeah, it's a whole thing.
Actually you don't know how many drugged puddings there are. And if someone were just to film you, you would be a shock to you of what's happening on a weekly basis.
It's like those people who would take Ambien and then they're this house video shows them going in their fridge and squirting an entire bottle of ketchup into their mouth.
Yes. It's just like that, except more pudding forward. Yeah.
I don't even remember what I was talking about.
We were talking about mulliganing and that was the medicine in the pudding. Yeah.
The main point is, Tyler, you have won the sock bet. Your inaugural sock bet here on Good Luck High Five. Yeah, Congratulations.
Thank you.
You picked JED to win the whole thing and you got fairly close.
Yeah, he did.
He made the top 8.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
True. Thank you.
Well done. Ely Cassis did okay.
Yep.
I can't remember where he finished, but
I feel like it was 6 and 7 or something like that.
Yeah, something like
7
that.
7 and 6, something.
And Megan's pick, unfortunately, Yu Chen Lu did.
Wasn't it Ian Robb?
Oh, yeah, Ian Robb. I'm sorry. Yeah. Both of them did very poorly.
Yes. I know Ian Robb, I think, started out 1-4.
1-4, something like that. It was rough.
Yeah, that's a bummer.
Yeah. But we'll see him. We'll see next time. So I've got to get some socks for you, Tyler. I have some ideas.
All right. I will say I do have. I legitimately only wear one brand of socks, so I can. So I'm a little bit of a. I don't know if I'm compatible with this challenge in the way I'm saying, and
in the way that it was designed.
Well, I won't be offended.
Will you just hang them on your wall?
Well, we can chat about it now, or maybe in the producer segment. Let's chat about the sock, how we can make this sock.
If that doesn't convert you into producers, I don't know what will.
I know. If more sock talk.
Sock talk. Welcome to Sock Talk. But let's let's get into now the real gnarly
The real
stuff.
medicine in the pudding.
The real, this is going to taste like cherry in a bad way. We had some unfortunate incidents in the top 8 of this World Championship revolving around the player Seth Manfield, who ended up winning it all.
Yeah, which I think added to the
it did.
The storm surrounding the whole thing.
Indeed, the tempest. Around this top 8 and indeed the finals match.
Yeah, is it in a teacup? That's
that's a good point.
We'll see.
We'll see. So I'll just set it up for you. So earlier in the weekend on day 2 of competition, this was on camera. Seth Manfield had a match against Derek Davis, who was one of the people who had been leading the tournament overnight. He was our 8-0 player after day 1.
Yep, which did, the curse was pretty alive and well, I will say. He did make the top 8, but it was on the skin of his teeth. Yeah, it really was.
Cursed, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
He was playing Derek Davis on day 2, and in this game, he had his little artist talent. Yep. It's so cute.
It is. Yeah, I know. It's so cute. How could it be a problem?
I feel like the ferret, who's the artist on artist talent, is really the mouth who will eat the sandwich. You know what I mean? Because he's painting the universe into existence.
I see. So that ferret is it's so large that there's no way to even comprehend
exactly.
it. I love that. Yeah.
And he thought that his talent was on level 3.
Yes.
But it was not.
Correct.
So what he did is he cast an Iroh's demonstration, thinking it would do 3 to everything.
Yeah, as a board clear.
As a board wipe.
Yeah. In
this game, but he didn't actually have the talent on level 3.
It would only do 1 to everything.
Correct.
Which did not kill anything, I
Indeed.
think. Yeah.
And nobody realized this.
Yes.
Including
both
him,
players,
his
the judges,
opponents, judges missed it. At some point, they realized and they're like, hold up, that's wrong.
Yeah. And it's obviously a game,
it's huge.
Yeah,
it was a board wipe.
Yeah, and it's extremely impactful to the situation.
Yeah. So when this was happening, I was sitting at the news desk and I could see right to my left this game occurring and an extremely lengthy judge call ensuing. Yep. And I knew that this was the feature match on camera because it's always played in the same spot. And I was like, oh boy, what is going on over there? Yep. Nothing good, I'll tell you that.
And that was true.
And I eventually, coverage caught up and I knew what was happening and they cut away from the game to let the judge call happen because there's a 15 to 20 minute judge call.
They went to a whole nother game for a good chunk of time.
Yeah. And they ended up having to rewind the game back to the point. And they were able to do it.
Yeah, which is crazy.
Crazy, but they were.
But it was an extreme rewind.
Extreme.
Yeah.
And so this was not great, right?
Yeah.
And Seth got, I believe, a game rule violation, a GRV, as we say, for this error. So that's setting the stage.
Yeah.
Then we come into the finals.
And to be clear about what happened in that, it wasn't rewound to before he played it. It was rewound to he had played it and the spell got played and it just dealt 1 damage to everyone. Because I saw some places online where people were like, no, he got, just to be clear, he did not get to take back the mistake of playing it. He still had to play it, but everything else after that got rewound so that he played the spell. It just did 1 damage to everything. Yeah. It didn't actually clear the board.
Correct.
That's what happened.
Yep. We find ourselves in the top 8. We're in the quarterfinals, and Ken is playing against Ken Yukihiro. Now, this matchup, Ken is playing that Reanimator deck that I love.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people at this point were like, number 1, Ken, how can you not like Ken?
We love Ken.
Just an absolute gem of a human being.
He is.
I'll never forget him winning that Pro Tour and just weeping. And
I was Final Fantasy.
Yeah, Final Fantasy. It was just such a great moment. And so, a fan favorite.
And he had also recently, just mere moments earlier, the day before, locked up Player of the Year.
Yeah,
so congrats
really cool.
to Ken Yukihiro for winning Player of the Year, which
deal.
means he had the best overall performance at all of the premier level events for the year. So he's doing great.
And people were rooting for this deck at this point too because people
because it's the only non-Izza deck.
Yeah, I mean, there's the otters too, but it's certainly the cool deck. At this point, it's the kind of dark horse deck,
and it was favored.
Yeah, in this
matchup,
people didn't. The Izza Lessons people were all like, "Yeah, I don't want to play the Reanimator."
Right.
Deck. Yeah.
So in game 2 versus Ken Yukihiro, Seth casts Boomerang Basics with 5 cards in his library to return his monument to his hand. And kind of just sits there for a while. Feels like about 20 seconds or so. And then he says, oh, that's probably bad because I'm probably going to deck myself. Can I take it back?
Yeah.
And he asks the judge and he asks Ken. And Ken, I think you can see, is visibly kind of
Yeah, sure. Like, okay.
Like, sure, but like, I'm annoyed by this. And the judge is like, yes. And so if the judge says, yes, you can, your opponent says, yes, you can, the rules allow you to reverse this decision. And in the booth, Marshall and Paul were commentating this match. Did not sound very happy with this outcome.
Yeah, it's a bad look. I think no matter what, I think everyone can agree that like this, it's not ideal to have this happen at this highest level of the game. It's a bad look, especially on a broadcast where it's really hard with like context and everything else you're seeing. You're not really hearing the players in a super clear way, and you're just kind of seeing things, and it just looks bad. It's like someone's doing this thing and then saying,
trying to wriggle out of a bad situation that they put themselves in.
Takes these backsies.
Yeah. Chat was not pleased with this, nor were they pleased with the outcome of the judge's ruling, which is like, yes, you can take it back. I think a lot of people learned, this past weekend that it is legal. I think this was kind of the highest level that it's happened at since that change was made. So this is not a rule that's been around for a long time, but as long as nobody has gained any information in a situation, you are allowed a take back. And we have Judge Rob coming on in a minute to talk more about it. But I quite honestly, living in a world where you're not allowed to do that, it seems like it could be slightly more oppressive than people imagine it could be.
And I will say that I've seen, from what both Eric and Rob said in our Discord, and also from what I have seen online, that one of the judges who was not the judge who was calling this game we're talking about now, but the judge who did the rewind, like the big rewind we just talked about, I should say, got onto the Reddit, and they said basically that they had been judging for years before this change happened, and in their opinion, it has made a very, very large positive difference to the number of games that end in a way that doesn't support the spirit of the game.
Right.
And I would say that Magic judges are, if you're going to go just like, population sample size, these are going to be the people who are most worried about things being right and wrong. Like they're going to tell you, you know what I mean?
Yes.
In the game and maybe in the rest of their life as well. They're going to point out when something's like not fair or like, actually, like, and so when obviously they are also supporting their fellow judges, and that there's like, there is maybe bias there, you could say, but I tend to believe them when they say that like this change is better. And I've heard that pretty much across the board.
That.
Exactly. I pretty much I haven't heard a judge come out and say the opposite of that. And so that carries a lot of weight with me to this thing that, as I said, it doesn't look good, but if the judges are telling me, hey, this is the best case, like it's not perfect, it's not ideal, it doesn't look great, it's not a good look, but the alternative is worse. Like I tend to believe them when they say that.
Yeah, I think that, and that goes a long way.
Yeah,
everybody.
Exactly. I agree.
So I was there watching this happen live, and at first, I saw it and I heard what was going on, and I was pretty upset.
Yeah,
and I was like, Ken looks visibly bothered by having to say yes.
Yeah, and
so part of me wanted to advocate for him, which in that situation, right? The spotlight of the world is on you.
Yes.
And your opponent, who you've known for a long time, you've played a million times, is like, can I do this thing?
Yeah.
It breaks your heart.
Yes.
Because you know that it was a bad play.
Yes.
And you're at the top 8 of the world championship.
Yes.
And you're like, if I say no, am I just looking like a huge jerk to the thousands of people watching this? He realized his mistake.
Yeah.
Do I want to play a game and win a game?
Yeah.
Potentially. That is because my opponent made a mistake that he realized, or do I want to beat him fair and square?
Yeah.
Right? Like he played his cards correctly, I played mine correctly, and I won.
Yep.
And I believe that Ken Yukihiro is the kind of player who wants to win a good game of Magic.
Yeah,
doesn't want to win because his opponent messed up and also realized he messed up.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but on that same thing is like, where does the line of me like being too uncomfortable to say, I don't want you to be able to take that back, and where does the line of like a judge advocating for a player in that start? Because it's so hard. Like, right? They can't be like, I know in your mind what you really think. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. And I think specifically the Boomerang Basics one, there was enough time that went by on it that I think it stretches the limit of this type of rule, I think.
Yeah.
Because it gets to the place where, it gets to a point where at what point is it you taking it back as like a thing you've realized, and at what point is it like you have had more than more time than you maybe reasonably should have been given to like sit in this moment in order to like then be able to say like, oh, actually, no, I'm not going to do this thing that might lose me the game. Because like other examples I've heard, like we were texting you, Megan and I, about like an example that had happened in the past where someone had lethal on board and just forgot to attack.
This is a Pro Tour. This is a Pro Tour Paulo Vitor Damarosa one where his opponent had a Glory Bringer and got very excited because he would have had the game, but he accidentally made a motion as if he was passing through his attack step. And it was ruled that he had passed through it. And it was a soul crushing moment to watch on camera. And that was also awful. And I will say worse. Yeah. In my opinion.
Yeah. And that's sort of the world in which there is. Because
he could not take it back.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I do agree with you. And that's a clear situation in which like this rule should apply. I think this boomerang basics is obviously farther on the end of the spectrum of like, okay, like this is not Seth did the thing he thought he wanted to do, which was like play the boomerang basics. He just wanted to take it back. It's not like he did it 2 turns later or whatever, it wasn't like there hadn't been like super significant actions that had been taken. I don't think he got any like massive amount of information from, like taking it back. But yeah, it just is a bad look when like someone's like, yeah, I'm going to do this. And then they like sit in it for a little while and start to maybe go. And then they're like, actually, no, I'm not like that. It just looks like you maybe got a little bit of an unfair advantage. So
yeah, definitely looks bad. I don't know, what can possibly be done. Yeah, it's a messy world we live in. Yeah,
the game is playing in paper is, and I think Rob is going to say this in his. It's just a messy thing.
It's a messy thing. Yeah, and I think people who want to live in an ideal world where this doesn't happen or it's punished is just not. It's just straight up not realistic. Yeah, not even at the top 8 of the World Championship.
Yes, I agree.
Magic Online and Magic Arena are a different game than Magic in real life, full stop. It's
very true.
It cannot be replicated, at least not with our current technology. Yeah. Maybe one day in the future it will be, but it's just not possible. And we can expect at the World Championship to have a higher level of play. And even I think Seth has disappointed some people. Yeah. In that regard.
Yeah.
And
there was sloppiness.
It was sloppy.
And that was true throughout,
Correct.
It's like this one instance is not, if it had just been this one thing, I think the narrative of it might be a little bit different than it is. Yeah.
I think he too is disappointed in himself. And he even said in his acceptance speech of the trophy, he's like, I wish I had played better, I had been better about my triggers and stuff. And like Seth is just kind of that's kind of, he's been known for being a sloppy player over the years. Also a great player.
Yeah, of course, obviously.
But and so anyway, it was a tough situation, which made even more difficult by later Seth cast a quench into a Cavern of Souls. Yep. And then immediately asked to take it back. And it was like, that one was, I think people are less upset about.
I think so. And I think rightfully so, because it really was like a thing where I think it's true that like, fundamentally what happened was like he showed this card in his hand and then like put it back in his hand. Like, and there was no information from Ken for sure on that. It wasn't like, because Seth was the one that realized, oh, this is an uncounterable spell. And I've just made a mistake. I'm like, obviously, yes, in a pure sense of like, did he get to put the card back in his hand? Yes. But like, I think in a general sense, there was a disadvantage to Seth in the sense that he showed this card that he had in his hand that is obviously
correct.
like that's not information he would have chosen to give to Ken if he had the choice.
In the end,
in the ethical end,
Seth took down this match against Ken. Yeah, and Ken was eliminated. But I think an important point and voice to hear in this conversation is the voice of somebody who's a judge, high-level judge, and that's Judge Rob. And we asked him for his kind of take on all the stuff that's going on here, and we wanted to share that with you right now.
Hi, Judge Rob here. Coming in to chat about the reversing decisions stuff that's been discussed at Worlds, where Seth Manfield had a couple plays that people are calling takebacks, and they kind of are. The policy covers this, and I wanted to chat about the policy a little bit. I don't want to second guess the judges on site too much. So to give some context, we don't have all the context. We can't hear what the judge said. We can't hear all the things that went on in the situation. I default to, especially for Worlds judges, trusting that they knew what was going on in the situation and handled it appropriately. I don't know the timeline of who said what when. Ken Yukihiro seemed to say, yeah, go ahead on one of the situations. And in the other situation, it was barely even a take back. So I don't personally have a problem with the calls that are made, and I just want to talk about the policy, why it exists, and what the context of the decisions might be. So in 2018, there was a policy added to the Magic Tournament rules called reversing decisions. It's MTR Section 4.8, and it gives players the ability to, if they made a play and they didn't gain any information yet, they can undo that play, basically. And that's a very broad, what does gaining information mean? The classic example is, I have 2 lands in my hand, a plains in a swamp. I set down the swamp and say swamp, and I say, wait, no, I want to play this plains instead. No priority passes happened. I've given my opponent information. I didn't gain any information from them about the situation. And what it doesn't cover is my opponent casts a bear cub. I tap 2 blue mana, cast counterspell. My opponent has some mana open, and they say, yeah, that counterspell resolves explicitly. Everything's explicit about that. Pick up the counterspell, and then I realize, wait, I didn't really want to do this. I don't need to counter that bear cub. But now I know that my opponent didn't use their open mana to interact in this situation. That wouldn't be covered under this situation. My personal stance, Magic paper play is sloppy, and it's always just sloppy and ambiguous in different situations. There's language barriers, there's missteps and misplays, there's players doing things wrong. Players wanting to hold people to swamp. You said swamp, you put down a swamp, you're stuck with that. Have this problem where it doesn't relate to all the different ways that players make mistakes, ask for takebacks, do stuff in the game. We want to give people some grace. My objective is to get people to play like this platonic, ideal, perfect game of Magic, where the decisions that they make are reflective of their strategic choices, not misclicks or verbal stumbles or whatever. Situations are just going to be, even in Magic, in high-stakes games, in things like baseball. John Boyce has a video called When We All Forgot How to Count to 4 about miscounting pitches in baseball. This is a situation where 2 teams are concentrating on something and there's thousands of spectators. There's sometimes a chyron on television telling them exactly how many pitches are there, and everybody gets it wrong. And then you have to correct mistakes or just let mistakes stand. And Magic paper play is a lot less tracked and focused on than that. Was it at the edge of policy? Sure. I think the world is worse if we hard hold people to absolutely every miniature thing that they do, because people get paranoid and games take a lot longer, and people still end up with the same sloppy mistakes. They just end up very frustrated and defensively playing instead of openly trying to do stuff and play things and progress forward in the game in a cheerful fashion. So that's what I've got.
I love Judge Rob filming this in his car over his lunch break for us. Thank you, Judge Rob.
It's A+, and thank you. As always, just a lovely human being, and giving his sharing what's on his heart. And I appreciate that.
Yeah. So I think the good luck high five takeaway, if I may be so bold, is that we are happy this rule exists.
Yeah.
Even at the highest levels of play.
Yeah.
But it was certainly stretched to its limit, I believe.
Yes.
And I do think you could make a case that the judge should have said no.
Yeah, I think that's possible. And I think even from my perspective, the case that I would make is that I think there's a part in which Seth taking responsibility for, there's some level of
the amount of time.
Yeah. And just the
sportsman,
exactly. Yeah. I think that's more where I come away from it on is yes, I don't think Seth violated the rules as they exist. And I think the rules as they exist are positive. They're better than the alternative that we've been able to come up with so far. But I think in this situation, if it was me and if I put myself in Seth's position, it's hard for me not to feel like there was another route in which he says, you know what? I've taken too much time here and I can't take this back. And that of course, these people are competing at the highest level.
Yeah, I'm how many Magic players would do that?
Probably
I don't know.
Many, but I think if you're going to be what is the spirit of the game? I think I kind of come down on the fact that by the spirit of the game in this situation, I think if I'm Seth, I have to acknowledge that maybe I shouldn't have been able to take that back, even if the rules allow me to, and the rules are there for a good reason. I think all that's true, but I think it's that responsibility, taking responsibility for our actions, that's such an important part of showing up in the world as a human being. I'm not trying to say that Seth is an awful person for doing this or whatever, but I think people see someone, perhaps especially a man, just not taking responsibility for their actions. And I think that really triggers people. And I think that's understandable.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Seth is beloved by his teammates and all of his friends and everything. I want to add that in there. His team backs him and supports him in all of this. What was I going to say? Yeah, it's just a bad situation. It made for a tournament that leaves a bad taste in people's mouths.
It does,
and that's really unfortunate because it is the capstone event of the year.
Yes.
The trophy we gave away for this was unreal.
It was gorgeous. Yeah. It was
everybody.
Very, very cool. Yeah.
I mean, it's the most beautiful trophy I've seen for any event ever.
Wow. Yeah.
I can't think of a more, like in real life, you guys, it looks blue. The Lotus looks blue in all of the video, but it's not. It's rainbow colored.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it did. That didn't play on the camera. Oh, wow.
It's just beautiful. So anyway, hopefully, I don't know what we can expect to come out of this when you're facing down a title of world champion and $1 million.
Yeah.
Like how many people are going to even make the sportsman-like call?
Totally.
I don't know what percentage. 5?
I'm not. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I think it's. Yeah. I think that's all true. Like it's like if someone's like, I could either give you you take this like kind of like slightly ambiguous route to the title and you get the title, or you don't get the title. It's not that simple because like Seth may well have won.
He might have won anyway.
Like that's totally possible. But yeah, I think in the moment you don't know that, and I think it's a hard decision for any one person to make for sure. But yeah, it was.
And I do believe too, like once the internet starts to grab onto something, and especially anything with the quote unquote cheating label is like
people hate it when because people and this is my soapbox, but I think people experience so little agency in their day-to-day lives that when they just want something to look like someone has agency, and like when it looks like people's agency is getting taken away in an unfair way, that triggers people so hard. And I get it because like, where do we have agency in our day-to-day lives? Like most of us, like not a lot, like, do you have agency at your job? Not likely, like, do you have agency in like the political system? Very debatable, like, so where does your agency come from?
What socks you put on in the morning.
Yeah. Okay. You have agency in what socks you put on and what socks you guilt people into buying you for your, for your prize that you win.
Yeah.
But I'm saying like that. I think that's a place where people see they perceive something unfair happening, and that they internalize that because they have had unfair things happen to them, in maybe on a daily basis for most of their lives. And that,
sure enough,
they just want one place where the unfair things can happen. And for some people that's a Magic tournament, and many of those people I think felt like that got violated this weekend. Yeah. And that sucks.
Yeah. Well, here's to hoping that we just move on. More better in the future.
Let's be more better.
Let's thank the sponsors of Good Luck High Five, shall we?
Let's do.
They're such wonderful sponsors. Card Kingdom, you can check them out at cardkingdom.com/GLHF. Right now, you can pre-order the Final Fantasy Holiday Special.
Very cool.
That's not what it's called. Holiday release.
Yeah.
I'm saying it like it's a TV show.
Yeah, I did want it to be a TV show when you said that, and I knew it wasn't, but I did think.
Oh, I would love a Magic the Gathering Holiday Special.
Yeah, especially with this art that they've got, like the Chocobo art that they've got. Like these Chocobos could, they would be like the little, I don't know, they'd be like the chorus of, it would be like a Greek play, and these Chocobos would be the chorus. You know what I mean? That's what I'm imagining.
I love a good Greek chorus Christmas show.
Yeah. There's a lot of those, right?
I was imagining more like the Star Wars Christmas special, where it's just like real bad, and people remember it for years, just like, that was
But it
tough.
kind of becomes beloved in a weird way because it was so bad, like I think.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
They still screen it every year in town here.
Yeah, it's true.
There's some cool stuff there that you can go check out at their website. Get your friends a nice foil single for their Commander deck, whatever you want. Cardkingdom.com/GLHF. Anything you order will show up in your mailbox in one package, so you're not chasing down several orders, which I think is always very nice. Thing that they offer. And they've got a bunch of really cool stuff there that are nice little stocking stuffers that you can check out. So highly recommend cardkingdom.com/GLHF. They've even got these little winter battle decks, which are called Winter Wonder. Yep. And they're 2 little decks that you can play against each other. So they're already tuned to battle against each other, and they're great for beginning Magic players. So
if you're going to be, somewhere in the holidays with family members who might be interested in playing, it's kind of a fun little thing that you could bring along and say like, oh, hey, you want to sit down and like, rather than watch like the 30th Christmas movie of the year, like maybe we sit down and play some semi-holiday themed Magic decks.
Love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Thank you as well to Dragon Shield. You can check out Dragon Shield in the link below the video or in the show notes of this podcast. Sleeves are also a fantastic gift this holiday season, and Dragon Shield has got the best ones in the business that you can buy. All sorts of different art that you can buy right now. There's a Santa-themed sleeves, which are very funny. Two cards that you can design, sleeves you can design yourself using their sleeve crafter tool, which sounds complicated, but it's really easy.
Truly,
I made sleeves in like 5 minutes.
You basically just upload an image.
And you're done.
Yeah.
And the sleeves are the same Dragon Shield quality that you like.
Yep.
So I think that would be a fantastic personalized Crimbus gift to get somebody this year. And if you buy anything that's not the Good Luck High Five themed sleeves, which you can also buy your friends.
No big deal.
Just search GLHF on the website. You can use code GLHF at checkout for 5% off your entire order. Well, friends, that's this episode of Good Luck High Five. Thank you so much for joining us. Great to really get into it. I mean, It was kind of like a downer of a discussion, but I think it was an interesting one to have.
I agree, and important. It's one of those things that it did happen, and you have to people are going to form their own opinions of it, and hopefully our discussion was helpful in giving some. Are we right? That's for you to decide, but
indeed.
But at least we hopefully gave you some of the the talking points or the arguments that most people are making about the thing.
Yeah. So let us know in the comments what you all think about this. Please be courteous, but I know you all are. You're all good people here in the Good Luck High Five family. But yeah, I'm interested to know what you all think about the situation too. I hear that we've got some Marvel previews being previewed over at Wizards of the Coast today. So.
Oh my.
Next week, we're going to be talking to you about some of that stuff that they're showing off.
Gotcha.
Dr. Doom.
Hey, yeah, I was interested that there wasn't a special holiday release of Spider-Man. You know what I mean? It's there's a holiday release of Final Fantasy, but where was the Spider-Man holiday
maybe
release?
Next year. Maybe next year.
So yeah, they probably just couldn't get it printed fast enough.
Yeah. But we'll talk about all that on our next episode and a lot of more exciting things as we close out the year here at Good Luck High Five. Some of our favorite episodes to round out the year are yet to come. Tyler, thanks for joining us this week. I'm going to put you back in your cage after this.
All right. Oh, shoot. Well, I guess
you were free.
Yeah, I guess I'm really glad I joined, but I did think I was just out of it, period, now. So that's,
really.
How you thought that. Yeah, so I guess it's been a bit of a roller coaster, but, happy to have been here,
Get back in the cage.